Hey everyone, it's Anya here from the blog ourgabledhome.com, and in today's video I want to share with you how we started our own urban homestead. And also I want to mention that this is a collaboration with some of my blogging friends. We have Brittany from the Homestead Challenge, we have Wendy from the Mountain Farmhouse, and Samantha from the Crooks family farm joining me, and I will also leave the links to their channels below this video so that you can check out what they have to say about homesteading and how they homestead and what it means for them. So for us, how did we get to where we are today? Well, it really all started when I was a little kid and I would spend time at my grandparents' house growing up in Germany. They lived in an old farmhouse in a very rural area, but they no longer had cows or chickens, goats and geese, but they were really urban homesteaders the way I see it today. They had a huge garden in which they grew most of their produce. My grandfather would go out there, and in the fall he would harvest all the apples and plums and cherries and whatever berries they had, and my grandmother would spend all the time in the kitchen canning and making jams and preserving food. Twice a year they drove to a place where they bought their grains so that they could grind their own grains and bake their own bread. They would sometimes buy half a cow and store that in the freezer so they would have meat for the whole winter. So they were really urban homesteaders because most of their time was spent around making food. And they were also somewhat old-fashioned in their ways. They were organic before that was even a word. And I remember my grandfather making a nettle tincture and using that as both a fertilizer for his plants and also a deterrent for certain pests. So really later I realized that their ways influenced and inspired me. And I have been baking bread for decades. I have a recipe for the sourdough, how we maintain our sourdough starter, and how I bake my sourdough bread. And from there, one thing just led to another. I started making yogurt and found out how ridiculously easy it is to make yogurt and so much cheaper and healthier. And then this quest for making a difference somewhat towards old-fashioned practices, minimalism, but also sustainability and self-sufficiency, I became more and more confident. I'm making my own candles, I make kefir all the time. Again, I bake my own bread, I grind my own grains. We usually don't buy, let's say, chicken breasts. We try to get a whole chicken so that we can get the meat off the chicken, but then also we make bone broth from the bones in this effort to be more sustainable and not just use a small portion, but everything that is being offered. I love knitting, we love DIYing, and we live in this suburban area, really, in a 1910 farmhouse. And what's nice about it is that we have 100-year-old oak trees and palm trees around us, but that also means that we get a lot of shade. So through a lot of trial and error, and believe me, I've had plants dying for various reasons, I had to figure out what plants and vegetables I can actually plant and grow in the shady garden that we have. We do have quite a bit of space, but most of it gets more than plenty shade throughout the day. Homesteading doesn't just mean that you have to own a piece of land somewhere in the middle of nowhere where you can have cows and chickens and goats and whatever and grow all your own food and all your own meat, but it is really a lifestyle of self-sufficiency and minimalism and growing most of your food, but that doesn't mean that you have to grow all of it. And believe me, we do go to the store, we do buy things in a box and in a jar so that when we're in a pinch, we can just open the jar and hey, we live in the 21st century, so I don't think that we need to be really rigid about it. Ever since I can think, I've been hang drying my laundry. Luckily, we live in California, so we have a lot of warm, sunny days. But even when I was living in Germany, we just had this foldable, collapsible clothes rack that would be indoors. And trust me, it is so much better for your clothes to line dry them than to put them in the dryer every time. So there's just so many different things you can do. And when my kids were younger, we would also do a lot of things together. So now they know that they can mend their own socks. They can really make their own pasta. They know how to bake bread if they had to. They're not really at the point where they embrace all of these practices, but more and more they're getting to the point where now as adolescents, they're incorporating more of these practices into their lives, and because they have that as children. So I think that there's really a lot of value teaching your children how to be self-sustainable and self-sufficient. Also, by making all these things, whether it is my own cleaning supplies, a lot of our personal care products, or anything that we do in our home, we decrease the amount of toxins that we bring in, because these days we're really bombarded with so many questionable ingredients in all these various products. And by making things, I can be in control of what goes in it, because even though I'm just using a cleaner, I'm going to be inhaling it. I'm probably going to have it on my hands, and personal care products go onto your skin. They do get absorbed into your body. And I just absolutely love knowing that I can make all these things, save a lot of money, be so much healthier, and be so much more eco-friendly because I'm saving on packaging and plastic. I find that the more I do, the more I learn, the more I research, and the more I experiment, the more confident I get, and I'm just having so much fun with it. It really is fun, and it doesn't have to take long, because once I learn something and create a routine around it, it's just really something that I don't have to really think about. I just do it, and I can squeeze it in my day. I can start my yogurt, and for example, I heat up my milk and let the milk cool down while I'm doing something else, and then I come back and add the yogurt cultures to my cool down milk and put it in a warm place and leave it there and set a timer, or just remember to check on it, and that's done. So it's just something that I can do while I'm doing all these various other things. So in the beginning, we didn't do a whole lot of these practices. I may have just been baking bread and that was it. So we started really small and just added one more thing all the time. And eventually we came to this point where I'm so proud of our little urban homestead. And even though we do have garden space, for a long time, I have planted tomatoes in containers and grown other things. And again, I don't mind going to the farmer's market or finding a local produce grower, or even going to the supermarket and buying my produce there, because it's not about being perfect and it's not about being rigid. It's just about having so much fun, and fun we do have. At the same time, my husband is an avid fisherman, so he goes out on the ocean and catches salmon during the salmon fishing season. And he has a really perfected smoked salmon. We're almost having it every single day. I am going to make a video and show you guys how he makes his smoked salmon. So I'm going to bring that to this channel, so stay tuned for that video. I am so excited today because I have created an ebook just for you. How to create an urban homestead. Really, how to create your urban homestead. This resource is 30 plus pages, jam-packed with information that you can use to launch your own urban homestead, because there's really no one way that one homesteads or has an urban homestead. So this is really for you to figure out what works for your situation, whether you live in a city condo or live in a suburban home with a little bit of garden space. You can use this to figure out what works for you. It has a lot of tips and recipes and ideas for various ways how you can create your urban homestead. The link for this ebook is in the description box below this video. If you are going to be fast until February 20th, 2021, I have a special price. After that, it will go up to $7.95. Again, the link is in the box below this video. I hope that you will use this as a launching pad to start your homesteading journey. If you enjoyed this video, I always love it when you give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here on my channel, I also appreciate if you hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so you do get a notification when I upload a new video, which happens every week on Tuesdays. Thank you so much for joining me here in our urban homestead, and see you in the next video.